I'm Michael Trow. I'll be happy to stay on this call as long as needed to answer any questions. It's great to see so many people here. It really, really is. The forums and the community is something that's been so personal to me for so long. I've been, daily active user on it for the best part of a decade now. And really, it was, and I've said this in public before, and every time we run a meetup, I've said that the forum for me was an opportunity to learn and increase my knowledge. Obviously there wasn't half the resources there is now available back when I started as a user of Zoho and then started all the best solutions as a Zoho partner. And the forums was just a good way for me to understand what people like you are doing day to day, the problems and issues you're encountering, and seeing how to fix those. So it's been a massive opportunity for me to learn and help grow this company over the years. I'm blessed and thankful to be able to be part of the community and to be invited to help people like yourselves through and navigate through some of these things like the CRM and campaigns integration. Our work goes into a lot of Zoho apps, predominantly on the CRM and the other sales and marketing suite. So we do help people with their complete journey of Zoho on an ongoing basis. And I think there's some people on this webinar that may know that firsthand. So welcome and good to see you all here. But that's enough about me. Say, please take my email address or drop notes in the chat and we can catch up afterwards as needed. Audio is available through your computer. You are going to be muted, but yeah, please just use the Q&A. If you've got any questions, there's a team of people typing away and readily available to help you as we go through things. There is quite a bit we want to go through. And we're going to be loosely sticking to this because that's how I do things. Really, the driver for this and why it's such a good opportunity and time to be doing a webinar on this again is because of all the changes that have been happening with CRM and campaigns this year. So the campaigns integration 2.0 is up and running, and there's new features being rolled out as we speak that we'll go into towards the bottom end of this list, which is what's on the roadmap and what can we look forward to for the rest of this year and beyond. But we do want to take a step back and look around some of the things about how to set things up. What types of segments there can be, what's some common business goals and challenges that we can solve or address with campaigns and the integration. What's the difference between an immediate and a periodic sync? Understanding sectioning marketing and non-marketing contacts, which is a huge part of this new topic management and new update that's coming to campaigns this year. Also, the automation aspect of things, which is very, very important to a lot of you, I know. And then, as we say, we're going to go into some Q&A. Not surprising. CRM is the flagship solution. It's really interesting that 13% of you would say that you're primarily using campaigns. That's always fascinating. Not are you using it or not. I'm sure there's more people using it, but just maybe not as the primary. But it's still a really important one. And this is, have you set up the campaigns integration with Zoho CRM yet? And I'm seeing it's about 50-50. In fact, it's exactly 50-50 right now, which, depending if you're using campaigns or not, is very interesting because that sync is definitely, if you are using campaigns, if you are using CRM, definitely going to cover this a lot today, but it is one of the main benefits is that integration. It really is very, very advanced, and it's great that we've got something available to us for free when we're using the Zoho suite. I want to talk about why the integration, is important, and using that as a segue there. Really it's about bridging the gap between sales and marketing for any business. It's allowing you to segment your target audience based on the CRM criteria. So the fields of data that you're capturing and tracking in your CRM, you can use in Zoho Campaigns to segment your audience, send targeted messaging. And then, from the CRM end, you can properly track these campaign efforts and work from there. So it is bringing the full cycle between sales and marketing, and even service as well. So service people can see what's going on in the CRM from a campaigns perspective. But what we really want as salespeople and as marketers is know what the other arm is doing, and we have to rely on each other to make sure that we're giving our customers the best journey and experience as possible. So what we really want today, and one of the main drivers of this shift to topic management in Zoho Campaigns, is to better allow you to send targeted messages to people, to give them the opportunity to receive emails they want to receive from topics, and to allow you to say, yeah, we want to send these emails to these people, based on this data. So really targeted messaging. So it does, having the CRM and campaigns work in unison is extremely powerful. And of course, that last bullet point there, having that data come back into CRM, for years it's been contextual information just to see when I'm looking at a contact, like who has opened and who has clicked this, and collectively. But now, on top of that, moving forward, we'll start talking about some of the new stuff that's coming in and be even better able to track these efforts and then leverage the CRM to better follow up and prioritize follow up and interactions with people and outreach to people based on their actions from certain campaigns or all campaigns. So really very, very powerful stuff. Let's just think top level. Let's take a real step back and go, what is Zoho Campaigns and the functionality of it? So Zoho Campaigns, it's an end-to-end email marketing solution that enables you to manage an audience or audiences, create responsive designs, send highly targeted messages to the right people with a high delivery success rate. Now, I just wanted to mention, like, one of the biggest or most common conversations we have, some of the most common questions would always be, well, why do I need Zoho Campaigns if I'm using CRM? What email should I send from CRM that has all these capabilities of individual or mass emails or automated emails? If I can do mass emails from CRM, why do I need Zoho Campaigns? Or when would it be a good time to use campaigns versus CRM? And largely it is a discussion that is driven by what you're sending to whom, how you want it to look. If you want it to be a responsive design template, depends on the reporting you want. But yeah, for anything over 1,000 recipients or subscribers or contacts, then that definitely drives you to using campaigns versus CRM, just because of the CRM limits. The campaigns tool is obviously a full email marketing solution, and so those inherent benefits and features should naturally be brought into your communications mix. And I will say that a lot of the underlying under the hood mechanics of campaigns, like that do drive a high delivery success rate, have been really addressed over the last couple of years, and it is a much more powerful tool than it was even just a couple of years ago. Some of the functionalities and the overview that it presents, yeah, you can do audience and subscriber management. You can do A/B testing. So if you're wanting, for people not familiar with A/B testing, that's sending out slightly nuanced or variances in email templates to different groups of people and seeing which is performing better. So then you can use that as a driver for your future campaigns. You've got your beautiful email template builder now with dynamic content. Dynamic content is just such an underrated feature that, again, was driven by CRM data. You can, just have one template, but have different snippets of content in that template based on what people, the criteria that your contacts meet. So, for example, if you wanted to say if someone's favorite color was a field you're tracking, and people have their favorite color is red, you could have dynamic contents show a snippet of information or sentences relevant to people that have their favorite color is red versus different content for people whose favorite color is blue, right? Pretty powerful stuff from one email template. Then, of course, you've got automation and workflows, and that's not just about um, what emails are sent to whom and when. Sure, that's what most people use it for, but also automation in campaigns is fully enabling subscriber management and other actions as well. List management, segments, all sorts of entering and exit strategies. It's more than just sending emails to people, but of course that is a large part of what we want, is to send people specific emails based on their actions, whether they subscribe to a list, whether they enter a segment, or whatever it may be. So automation and workflows is a massive part of it. Campaign management is a natural feature. Of course, we've got full e-commerce solutions in there as well, so we can drive people to shopping carts and even tying in with some other Zoho apps like Zoho Checkout. And then last but not least, we've got real-time analytics. And these are just some of the functionalities or features that we're promoting or Zoho's promoting now, right? There is a laundry list. It's a feature-rich app. And it's a case of not necessarily having your ears piqued by certain things, but knowing what you want to do, what your strategy is, and knowing that there probably are features or functionalities around that that you can leverage at any time. But certainly, anything on this list is something that's highly desired by most these days. Then we have to look at, I touched on it before, but I wanted to make sure we knew what the difference was between, Zoho Campaigns and the CRM Campaigns module. I get it. Don't shoot the messenger, especially Zoho people, but I get it from where you guys are sitting as the attendees and users. There is sometimes where the terminology used by Zoho is a little confusing. So we have not just campaigns, but we have analytics. We have the analytics module in Zoho, which is for dashboards in the CRM, but it's not the same as Zoho Analytics, the full business intelligence platform that is out there as well. So it's the same with campaigns, historically speaking, anyway. And again, I feel like I'm leading into some big reveal. Maybe I am at the end of this, that the such may or the others may be able to speak more to about what's coming up on the roadmap. But yes, Zoho CRM, the campaigns module, that is largely, to date, always been a place that has been an initiative management module, right? And that's what its primary purpose was. And Zoho Campaigns cannot do that. Zoho Campaigns is for email marketing, it's an email marketing solution. But the CRM Campaigns module, it lets you track initiatives no matter what they are. It could be big sales push 2020, it could be trade shows, it could be your content management and the content collateral that people are downloading. It could be all kinds of things that you're tracking. Do you just want a placeholder, a way of managing and tracking that, and the people that are related to that? That's what historically the CRM Campaigns module is built for. Then when we brought in Zoho Campaigns, yes, the integration with the CRM that we'll talk more about in a minute, does obviously integrate to that module. Then the crossover, is very much consistent between the two. Yeah, you've got list management in the CRM Campaigns because you're adding leads or contacts to it. But really, that's what Zoho Campaigns is about. It's saying we have got an audience and we want to have lists and segments within that. That's what Zoho Campaigns is for. Creating and sending emails. A couple of you may be raising your eyebrow now because I put a Y in both columns there. Spoiler alert, that's what now is one of the new features that's coming out in the CRM sync with campaigns, is you'll now in the future be able to send Zoho Campaigns emails from within the CRM. Previously you weren't. So previously that would have been a big no in the campaigns module column versus a Y in the Zoho Campaigns module app. I beg your pardon. Also, automation. No, automation is not supported from the CRM Campaigns module. It's purely just a tracking module. Yes, workflows can be executed from the Campaigns module itself, but not for the people on that. That takes a whole different kettle of fish, a whole big discussion. But yes, the Zoho Campaigns is where we're doing automation of emails to people. So there is a distinction, and it's just really, again, knowing what we want to be using to send our emails. For what purpose? Is it sales based follow-up emails? Is it personalized emails I want to send out from the CRM? Or is it our email marketing solution, newsletters, more beautiful driven targeted messaging from Zoho Campaigns? And then just treating the CRM Campaigns module as what it is. It's an initiative management module for multiple purposes that, yes, will integrate and show that information with Zoho Campaigns. But you may be using it as well to integrate with other Zoho apps like Zoho Survey and stuff like that. So please don't be confused. If there is anything that I've said just now that is still confusing to you over what the campaigns module is in CRM, drop a question in the chat and we'll make sure we address it. But yes, just know they are two separate things for all intents and purposes. The integration between the two apps, CRM and campaigns, especially, based on, what has been happening with topic management and, the whole subscription status updates this year. Just a quick check to make sure everybody's still with me. If you have deployed topic management, please just add a reaction, a thumbs up or something to it. I'm curious as to see if there's people that have still yet to do that or still struggling with what it means or anything else. So I'm seeing a little bit there. So everybody's, for the most part, I'm getting a lot of like positive reactions, not a lot of negative. So that's good. It was, difficult for a lot of people. It was a eyebrow raiser for a lot of people, even though we had it. Seen a bit of negative there. That's okay. It still can be confusing to people. Um, Topic management, this is not what this webinar is about in particular, but obviously we're going to touch on it. I will say that it is a much better change. We approached it this end with a grain of salt. We wanted to be skeptical before we went all in. We knew we had to be all in, but we wanted to be skeptical and make sure we knew exactly what the implications were to us as users, to our clients, and to Zoho at large. It has afforded us a much better structure. It is much more optimal for managing our lists and our audiences, and definitely in this day of oversaturation, over communication from the end user, the customer's perspective, having topics and the ability to manage my own preferences of what I want to receive emails on is massively beneficial to us. Now, I will also say that one of the main benefits it provides um, is moving forward the ability to be much more structured in how we're setting up and what communication sentences we're sending out to whom. But I will say that for the people that struggle the most with the transition from old campaigns to new and topic management was where people wanted to use this as an opportunity to start re-evaluating their strategy, and they maybe try to take on too much at once. That was probably the people that struggle the most, rather than just trying to do a step-by-step transition. So I get it. If people are still struggling with it, it's valid. It's a big change. We'll hopefully address some of those questions today. But yeah, again, put them in the Q&A and we'll try and address it at the end of this session, later today or otherwise. But I will say that when we're talking about, when we're setting the whole integration up, and we've taken into consideration how we want campaigns to be deployed, really the first thing is define that strategy, right? How do we want to be set up? What are we sending out to whom? When are we sending it out to whom? Are these regular emails like newsletters? Are they, more campaign type emails? Are they both? What do we want people to be receiving, and let them choose what they want to receive? you know so then we have to think about the campaign settings. So with the campaign settings, we want to make sure before we even start deploying, a lot of the stuff ready for the sync, what do we need to deploy in Zoho Campaigns to really make sure we're giving ourselves the best efforts of doing this optimally? One, we need to make sure we have domain authentication deployed, right? Can I get a thumbs down from anybody who is not yet or isn't sure if they've authenticated their domain? Don't be scared, because it's okay. But if you don't even know what I'm talking about, thumbs down reaction. Domain authentication is what improves you or allows you to have the best opportunity for higher deliverability. So it's a setting where you need to add custom DNS to um, your email host, your domain host, and that basically authenticates everything to be sent through Zoho Campaigns. So if you're using Zoho Campaigns, that's one of the first things you need to do, right? To improve your setting. You also need to work out how you're going to warm up your IP, so you can, work out, what's our list size, so do we need to work out how we're going to warm up that IP before we start sending out emails to thousands of people? That's not the best way of doing it. It's not optimal. We want to send it out in small batches first. What other settings can we deploy in campaigns? We possibly want to, look at, how we're going to set up the custom fields, what fields we need. So are there any customizations needed on the CRM side of things that's going to push data into Zoho Campaigns? All these things that we need to think about and consider, before, even taking a step in. So let's go into this in a little bit more detail. So when we're talking about the strategy, we want to think about the brand versus product topic hierarchy, right? That's your two primary options when they ask you what topics do you want to use and how do you want to deploy topics. Is it going to be a brand or is it going to be a product? It's okay if you've just got one topic right now, which could be something like general information, general newsletter. Spoiler alert: if anybody subscribes to our newsletters and signs up and gets our emails, that's all the only topic we have right now. We are planning on launching out over the next few months a much more detailed topic hierarchy based on events, based on product features and releases. We're not going to go into the detail of having certain emails for certain Zoho apps at this stage. But that's the kind of theory or thinking that could go into it. If you're a brand, and a brand hierarchy, that could be something like Order Best Solutions, us, and we just have three different topics, which could be general newsletter, events, or product feature updates. If it's a product hierarchy, you may want those same three categories or subtopics for each or product category that you offer. So if you're, I don't know, if you're, let's say, an auto dealer, you could have, you could have emails for cars and emails for motorbikes. And then under cars, you could let people choose whether they want newsletters, events, new releases, versus the same for motorbikes, so breaking it down by product. So you could end up having multiple topics per product. It just depends what types of stuff you're sending out to whom and when, right? Then you need to think about, are we going to use a list or a segment based mechanism for managing our contacts? That's the next question. So before, in the old sync, it was all lists and segments, right? Those are still there. Those are private to yourselves. One of the big issues some people had when they swapped over topics was they made their lists their topics. That's not really what you want to do, generally speaking, because that's customer facing, right? So we don't want people to see that they're on, end of year Christmas card list 2022. Maybe you do, but I doubt it. We don't want those lists to be public facing. That's internal. Lists and segments are internal to help you say that, yes, of these topics, we then want to send it just to people on these segments or these lists. You may not need both. You may want to have a master list or list of broad categories, but then segments normally are going to be dynamic based on, again, that information from CRM, industry, geography, what type of product category, stuff like that. What do we, if we're sending out targeted messaging, how do we want to send it out? And that's going to be driven by lists or segments. The next thing is going to be understanding the sectioning of marketing or non-marketing contacts. This again was a bit of a big one for people, because for the most part, um, they weren't sure what that meant. We're going to talk about the sync, but it brings over all contacts now. So we have to define whether they're going to be all marketing, which means they are eligible, or you deem them eligible, or they've opted in to receive your emails. That is marketing. That means they are counting towards your subscription cost, right? So the total number of subscribers you have, which inflects or impacts how much you are being charged for Zoho campaigns. Then you have non-marketing. Non-marketing doesn't mean they're unsubscribed. That just means you have marked them as not eligible for marketing at this stage. Very important distinction, especially as we go into defining the subscription management process. You got to remember that, if you unsubscribe someone in your inside Zoho campaigns, the only way they can be resubscribed really is by that contact themselves resubscribing them. So that is definitely one of the benefits of the non-marketing category that's available now. You can drive that through the subscription management process. It could be driven by automation. It could be all driven by a field, just marketing status in CRM for marketing and non-marketing. That can help define how people end up and are, categorized, sectioned in Zoho campaigns. Ultimately, you may decide that today, when I set this up, or tomorrow, for whatever reason, we don't want everybody to be eligible for marketing. We're not going to market to these groups of people right now. Again, just to put some real world context on it, I had this exact situation. Our CRM had a bunch of older networking contacts of from me personally, that were in there, that I touch base with regularly, but I don't want them eligible, and I don't want to start sending them our marketing communications from Zoho campaigns. So I went through and made sure, and we all made sure this end, that they were marked as non-marketing. So for now, they're not going to be even in the contemplation to receive emails in Zoho Campaigns. They're in there, they're in the database, but they're non-marketing. If in the future I decide I want to open up our marketing to include those people for whatever reason, we will do so, and we can plan for it accordingly and roll it out in a structured way. Right. So it's a very big distinction as to whether we want to, how we want to drive this. It's possible. I'm sure there's a lot of you on this webinar right now that, would have everybody. Anybody in our CRM are leads that are coming from the places we want them to come from, that are marketing. That is fine. That is extremely common. I also know that it's extremely possible that there are people on this webinar, and they definitely use Zoho campaigns, that haven't got a situation too dissimilar to what I had and what we had here, right? So it's an opportunity. Nothing's lost if you've done this and you feel like, oh, I put them all as marketing? I don't know. I guess so. Um, that nothing's too late. We can definitely, and you can definitely take steps to reevaluate, look at the data, and make sure people are categorized and sectioned accordingly, right? And that you know exactly, this is how many people are in CRM. This is how many people are definitely eligible in CRM to be in campaigns with eligible email addresses or not marked as opted out, etc. And these are the people we want to specify as marketing and non-marketing, whether we do that in CRM or campaigns. Also, with the subscription management process, you can, again, you want to make sure you've defined how people end up on topics. Are you driving that through automation, or are you purely letting people, the contacts, drive that themselves? So you can define that subscription management process and walk through that journey, from the customer's perspective, and make sure you set up campaigns, or know exactly what the strategy is going to be, so you can set up campaigns accordingly. Once we've gone through that sort of top line strategic element and the planning side, then we can check and deploy the settings. So this is where I was saying earlier, like domain authentication, number one thing to check, right? That's what we want to look at, just to make sure from a purely technical perspective, we've given ourselves the best chance we can for dealing with those, making sure our emails are given the best chance of delivery as possible, right? Um, the next thing we want to look at is the preference management page. A little bit scary. Than we have seen firsthand quite a few accounts where people just deploy topics because there was that big red banner up there saying, please deploy topics, it's mandatory. So people did it, and they didn't know there was a preference management page that they had to, or should, one for a better term, update as well. It will default to something like welcome to brand, and it'll just be generic language. You want to make sure that preference management page is updated and at least has your names and logos on it and stuff. Because if any person who receives an email from Zoho Campaigns clicks on manage my preferences, that's the page they're going to see, right? So we do want to make sure that that is done. If you're in Europe and you're watching this, or you're in California, or if you're watching this and recording in a different country, compliance settings. Make sure that you are deploying any compliance settings that are relevant to you and your local laws. Then the next thing would be custom fields. Again, it's not like the CRM or maybe some other apps where you're going to start adding fields, just because they sound good. You're not capturing nice to have information in Zoho Campaigns, right? You're capturing and having fields for needed information that you need either for custom or existing merge tags to include in your email correspondence. But most likely, custom fields are going to be purely to enable you to do list and segment management and manage your audience, right? It's purely internal stuff. So what custom fields do we need to either bring the data in from CRM, or if we're capturing data somewhere else and it's feeding into Zoho Campaigns, what fields do we need? But it's really going to be to drive that segment, and list management. Then, as we talked about just a minute ago, is there any subscription management workflow we need to configure, right? So we're going to make sure we've deployed any automation before we've turned on the sync. All this, just remember, is before we even start thinking about doing the sync, right? So are we going to be deploying any subscription management workflow? Are we going to do anything in there to help manage our audience and manage our customers' journey? Is there any other workflow or email automation we want to make sure is in place before we start bringing people in? Or do we make sure we've got everything else set up? So when we set that up, it all works accordingly and the right people are going to get it. If you haven't looked at the workflow automation in Zoho Campaigns, there's some really great parts of it, not just about what emails can be sent to whom and where, but there's some really cool tools that you can use to now look at the contact's journey. You can type in an email address to someone and see the exact journey they went through on any workflow and see exactly how it's working. It's really very, very cool. So if you're ever in question of how we set this up in line with our broader strategy, or just curious, just go into any of the workflows and put in someone's email address and check it out. It's really very, very cool. And it's very useful to making sure that everything's working as it's supposed to. Helps yourself be on top of things. Then after we looked at the automation, is there anything else we need to, look at? Any sign-up pages, any other footers or settings for each list, or all the topics in general? Is there anything else we need to set up before we start doing this? Any other integrations? We're obviously focusing on the CRM integration, but there may be something else. We're doing Zoho Analytics. We're pushing data from campaigns in Zoho Analytics. Are there any other tools that are feeding data in or getting data out of Zoho Campaigns that we want to check and or set up first? That's all something to think about. The flow of data. So we are working towards a live sync with CRM, which is coming up very shortly in this presentation. Then yeah, that's data coming in from the CRM. Is it going to have or be impacted by data coming in from anywhere else in the Zoho campaigns? Is this data going anywhere else after Zoho campaigns? Do we need to think about that and just make sure that our flow of data across multiple systems is all as it should be, so we don't end up with a bit of a situation where, from a data integrity perspective, in CRM or anywhere else. Right, so we do need to think about that flow of data. It comes up all the time when we're talking to people at this end. So once we've checked and deployed the settings, then we can start going into the nitty gritty of setting up the integration, right? It's actually not that scary. Anybody's still yet to do it. Which I think that was one of the questions. So have you set up the campaigns integration? I'm just checking this again. We're still at 50%. I don't know if this is the people that answered this and said, no, we've not yet set up the campaigns integration, that 50%. I don't know if you are campaigns users or not. So that would tell me, I'm going to assume you are not all using campaigns yet. May be wrong. But that is, if you're yet to do this, do not be scared. Right, that's the message of it. If you have already done this and you are feeling that there is anything I'm saying on this webinar that's giving you pause for thought, I definitely apologize for doing that. But don't worry, this can all be turned off and retroactively re-looked at and addressed. Right, we can go back and quote unquote fix anything. But yeah, definitely don't be worried if we haven't done this yet and you're gonna do it. It may feel like quite a big moment in your tech ecosystem evolvement, but it really isn't that big a deal. And you'll see that in 2 seconds when we look at the how the actual settings work. But what do we need to consider, right? We need to consider whether we want an immediate or a periodic sync. I'm going to say just by default, go for immediate, right? It just makes more sense. Periodic means that it's going to periodically, add people from CRM or any field changes or updates in CRM into Zoho campaigns, right? If we're going to be doing emails out of Zoho campaigns at least weekly, we may as well go for immediate. There's no harm or foul in it, right? It's still going to instantly or more or less instantly push any field changes across from from CRM into campaigns based on the sync. So we may as well do immediate, right? But that's the first thing you're going to be asked to do. Or choose. Is it going to be immediate? Is it going to be a periodic? We do get a detailed view of the sync as well. So we do get a look at the history each day, like see how many records were updated. We do get to see the errors. The errors can be downloaded. So you do have a lot of tools at your disposal to help make sure that everything's working as you expect it to. But just know that, it's highly likely that if you've got, let's say, 1,000 contacts in CRM, it's highly likely that not 100% of those will end up in into Zoho Campaigns with the sync. You've got to expect that some of those may be rejected, either because they've got generic email addresses like info at or sales at. Those by and large aren't accepted in Zoho Campaigns. You have to ask Zoho specifically for exceptions to let those be included. That's all to help you and everybody else at large make sure their domain integrity and deliverability is as best as it can be, because of recipient servers not liking, you know, emails being sent to generic emails. There's also email validity. Zoho also uses a backend email validation tool. So every time an email is added to campaigns, it goes through a validation tool, may be proven to be out of date or broken or something and rejected, right? Garbage in, garbage out. I'm not saying that your CRM database is garbage, but let's say there is some, incorrectly entered email addresses or email addresses that bounced or ones that are invalid now. Then they're probably not going to end up in campaigns. So expect a disparity or a difference between your total available audience in CRM versus what becomes the total available audience in campaigns. Then when you're doing the next step is to choose your list or segments. We're syncing all contacts now, right? Before, we used to be able to pick segments or filtered views from CRM. Now we're syncing everybody. We're syncing all leads and all contacts, or one or both of those, right? But it's all or nothing. Every single record in CRM in the chosen module is going to be synced across. So then you're asked, well, do we want to put this on a list or a segment? Honestly, that's up to you based on your strategy. More often than not, the answer these days may be no, right? We've already talked a lot about the marketing and non-marketing status, but that is the next thing that we have to, look at when we're talking about syncing and mapping of fields, right? Is are we bringing them across as marketing and non-marketing? Another trick to bear in mind is when we're bringing across fields, let's say industry is a very common field to bring across and to sync from CRM into a custom industry field in campaigns. Avoid special characters. Do not have backslash or forward slash. Those aren't accepted or supported in Zoho Campaigns, and it will be rejected. So you do want to make sure you've no, I shouldn't say you should. It's wise and recommended, especially if you've got data that's been in Zoho CRM for some time. You've been using it for a while. You've got lots of different data sources. You imported data. You got stuff coming in live from web forms and stuff. It's wise and recommended to take a look at your data. Maybe using Zoho Data Prep, another very, very cool app that's underutilized in the Zoho suite. So look at how your data is populated in certain fields. And then you can look at, make sure it's consistent. There's no any options or values in the field are old, or there's stuff that's in there that's not in those values or options. You can also check if there are any special characters like backslashes or anything else in there. Take them out, replace those with letters. So instead of oil/gas as an industry, do oil and gas or oil or gas. Change it in CRM first before we turn it on, right? Because it will get rejected from campaigns, some of those special characters. The next thing is to consider is using account and deal fields, right? Especially if you're syncing the contacts module, you are presented with the option to also include account and deal fields. By all means, include those. It's definitely worthwhile including those. They will come across. There is a lot to know about this, right? Especially when we're talking fields available for sync or for segments or anything else. So, especially with deals, it's only going to bring in the latest deal associated to that contact. So, it is possible that you still may want to control the data at the contact level in CRM, meaning you may have fields like industry on account or deal fields like product or product category that you may want to roll down or up to the contact in CRM to then map those across to the contact level. So contact fields in CRM to contact fields in campaigns. You may still want to do that depending on your requirements and objectives and strategy, even though you can include fields and sync fields from the account and the deal. It's a very important distinction as to what and when. And we did one recently, an integration set up for someone. We set it up so that we did use the account and deal fields first. Once we had it all in there, we looked at it and we agreed with the client that we act based on their needs for how they wanted to segment data, based on how they updated data in the CRM. We actually wanted to take the time to go back, add those fields to the contact record in CRM, have custom functions in the CRM, pull the data from the account and the deal into the contact, have the contact as the source of truth for this integration, and then push that data across into campaigns and do it all at the contact level. It's no right or wrong, just depends what information you're capturing, what you're syncing, what you need for what purposes, right? But that's still a common thing to address and do things at the contact level. So there's lots to think about from what we're gonna be syncing and mapping. When we're set up or confronted with the sync, this is what we're presented with. It's really simplistic. It's a little scary. You're given really just one option. What module are we syncing? Is it leads, contacts, or a custom module? If it's contacts, once you select that, then it's going to say, do you also want to bring in account or deal fields? Let's just say it's leads, and this is all you're left with. Then it's going to ask you, do you want to sync to lists? Do you want to add them as marketing or non-marketing, right? And that's where we made that distinction. Are we going to bring them all in as non-marketing and then have campaigns automation or a field determine whether they become marketing or not? How do we want to do that? Do we want to update an empty field value? What that means is if there's, a field that becomes empty inside CRM, or gets populated, do we want to update it across the systems, from either end? The answer may be yes, or is likely to be yes. Then the advanced options, do we want to exclude opt-out contacts, or do we want to remove opt-out Zoho CRM records? So what that means, and just to clarify, there is a field in Zoho CRM, email opt-out. It's a checkbox. It's a very common question as to what does this mean? What does it do? That in CRM, if that checkbox is checked true, that prevents you from sending emails from Zoho CRM, period. If you have checked that checkbox and you have selected to exclude opt-out contacts by toggling that little bar there, that will also exclude anybody who's got that email opt-out field checked in CRM from being included in Zoho Campaigns, which could be very legitimate. But there are definitely instances we've seen commonly where people weren't using campaigns. Maybe we're using a different email tool in the past or just using the CRM for something, and that field was used for something else, altogether. And now we need to use it or make sure it's not unchecked, or we exclude that, or we want to include it, based on our needs. So just bear in mind that's what is driving that exclude opt-out or remove opt-out, is that email opt-out field in CRM. From there, once you've selected this, all you're presented with next is your field mapping. And that's extremely simple. You're literally just going to go in and pick which fields from CRM you want to map to what field in campaigns. You can also create fields from there. You have got the option to add a new field from there. I will say personally, this is just depends on how you work. For me personally, I want to build the fields first. I want to, before I even come to this screen that you're looking at now, I would personally want to go into campaigns, go into settings, add custom fields. I would set those fields up first rather than doing it through this part of the sync deployment, just so I know exactly where everything is, where it's going to be, what options are there, if it's a pick list. That's me. Some people prefer to do it the other way. It's a personal thing. If you're always a little hesitant and cautious like me, do it first. We can build out custom reports based on campaign data, because it's going to send the campaign. Remember, one of the benefits of the integration is it's going to send and create a Zoho CRM campaign record for that email campaign you sent out of Zoho Campaigns. So you can now use that data of what the campaign was, who the recipients were, what their status is, quote unquote. So whether they opened it, clicked it, etc. You can now, use all that data in CRM to provide reporting. As I mentioned earlier, you could use that as a way of doing follow-up prioritization. Build out a report and then add that to make sure that salespeople know, what's going on there. Then it's going to be from there. A case of is there anything else we'd like that we can't build out of CRM, and maybe looking at using Zoho Analytics for some even more detailed reporting. So there's plenty of possibilities. The data's all there, but yeah, we can use that data in either CRM or Zoho Analytics if we're using that or want to use it for custom reporting. Great for opportunity analysis as well, especially when we're talking segments and seeing the trends of data from our campaigns versus the information we've got in CRM, like by geography, by industry, etc., etc. Really very cool. So just almost too briefly, but there's not much I can attest to this, and maybe the team from Zoho can speak a little bit more about it. But what is coming up is going to be very exciting. We're getting a new campaigns view inside CRM. So as part of the sync, you're going to get a much more detailed view of that campaign activity in the campaigns module in CRM. You're going to be able to use merge tags. So you're going to be able to use merge tags from CRM and campaigns and vice versa. You'll also be able to drive better automations and workflows for campaigns based on the CRM activity. And even so, what's coming up a little bit more exciting is you're going to actually be able to send emails from Zoho CRM from the campaigns module. You're going to be able to build out your campaign inside CRM and actually send it from there as well. So maybe there's permissions, different people in your organization that would want to be able to do that or need to be able to do that, find it better to do that rather than going into campaigns. So there's lots of exciting stuff coming up. As I said, we'll definitely be able to give you the guys from Zoho will be able to attest to more of what's coming up. Also, just wanted to briefly talk about some best practices. I'm going to give everybody here a big pat on the back for lasting this long. I know we're talking about a lot of stuff. It may be a little confusing. And I bet you all know a lot of this anyway, watching your screen right now. But I will say, and we wanted to make sure we included that, yeah, do automate periodic campaigns for cross-selling and a reminder to book, services. It's really you've got the tools at your disposal to not just be sending out manually emails, but do automatic or periodic campaigns that do, touch on other things that people may not be aware of that you do. Do automate follow-ups in CRM for your subscribers to interact with your campaign. You've got sales signals to notify people, but take a step further. Use the reporting, use the information disposal to be more methodical about it, especially if it's a campaign that is more of a one-off, rather than just like a newsletter, or it's something specifically targeted. Make sure you take that time to plan so the CRM users and the sales team can leverage all that great work from campaigns to make real inroads in customer interactions, the customer journey, and hopefully sales. Stop sending automatic email campaigns to the leads that responded to one of the email campaigns. So do leverage the if there's then that type functionality of the workflow builder. Do make sure that we're going to be, sending out email campaigns to leads that have responded to one of the email campaigns at a time. Think about using scoring rules. Scoring is independent between campaigns and CRM, but now you can also include criteria from campaigns as well into those scoring rules in CRM. So the CRM, you can build out scoring criteria on the fields in CRM and also whether or not they're opening or interacting with campaign emails. So that's a great way to better build lists of priorities, especially if you're a high volume organization. Let's say you're doing ads and you're getting quite a few records coming in and new leads. Scoring rules can be a real great asset to helping you prioritize, who gets what, in terms of communication and devotion from salespeople and priority from salespeople. So there's some good things to think about, and it's all there at your disposal. Some of the new functionalities that are coming in, we've talked a lot about topics, and if there's any questions, obviously, as I said before, happy to talk about those afterwards. Um, definitely the lawful basis for communication going into more compliance settings. That's definitely, you know, something that we want to make sure everybody is aware of and adheres to, even if you're in a place like the United States of America where we're not as stringent as with GDPR as Europe is. But yeah, lawful basis of communication and topics is really important, giving people that opportunity, to make sure they're receiving what they want to receive. This new sync flow we've talked about, the send review. For people who have been using campaigns for a while, you may have forgotten, but for anybody new, the first campaign you send out, it's highly likely that it's going to be paused. You can't just send it right there and then. It's going to have to go to Zoho for review. So they can rubber stamp it, make sure it meets, key guidelines that's going to ultimately protect you and to a degree them. But yeah, not sending out trash or horrible stuff or nefarious stuff. So, but now you can send any email for review should you want to, and that helps you understand if it's going to, meet guidelines of recipient servers and everything else like that. And that deeper CRM sync, as I say, it's been deployed in part with the new sync from CRM to campaigns that we just talked about for a while now. But yeah, there's the deeper CRM sync coming, and it's already being rolled out with the new view in CRM with the ability to send emails and stuff like that. That's everything from me. So I wanted to leave it there, but say thank you so much for your attentiveness. Thank you so much for your reactions, participating in the polls. So while I was here, she just wanted me to quickly show this as opposed to just the screenshot, which is fine. Is all managed from here under Sync Services. It's in the same place it's been for some time. Um, Now, again, this is all going to be changing. So the remaining syncs and everything else is all a little bit different. But now when you're creating a new sync, the first thing, as I said, you have to do is create an immediate sync or a periodic sync. As I said, I would lean towards an immediate sync, which is how we do it. And I'm just going to pick leads for simplicity's sake. But then all you're asked to do is select, give it the all leads name, and then it's going to be then it's going to ask you for, it's just going to be all leads. This is actually a little bit old, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to do the integration demo on this account, because this needs to be updated in this old demo account. But for the most part, it's still the same. It's going to ask you what topics you want to do, and then it's going to ask you, which whether they're going to be marketing or non-marketing. But the only thing you don't have now is the ability to do custom view, right? But otherwise, once the syncing is the important bit, right? And this is the most important thing that we didn't cover on the presentation. It's going to give you the default of just the two predefined fields. Once you ask for the map new fields, it's very simply just going to ask you for to pick the field in CRM. So let's say industry. And then, yes, this is where you could add a new field if you wanted to. But as I said, I would always lean more towards going into the settings and adding a custom field first. And then it's going to ask you which field you want to add it to here. So then you're just going to simply pick A from CRM to map to B in campaigns. And then just do that through your whole list of everything else. It entirely depends what you want. Lead status is also a very common one that people want for that. We don't have one here. So if you do click new field, it's just going to add it there. It will pre-populate it. It'll understand if it's a pick list or otherwise. So I just like to stick on the side of caution and do it in the back end first. But if you do select new field, it's going to add it like that. And you can just go through all the rest of your fields as you want, and then initiate it in the bottom right once you're ready to do it. And that's really all there is to it. It's extremely, extremely simple. The most care and attention and everything else needs to be given up front, and what we were talking about before with the settings and everything else. So domain authentication under here, under your deliverability. making sure your senders are configured, so all the email addresses that you want to send from have been validated, making sure your custom fields are set up down here, that type of care before we come to actually deploying the sync. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover, Sish, or anything else?